Day 832 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzie here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So, starting off, we'll take a look at those Russian losses, as currently Russia sits on more than 513,000 military personnel losses, representing an additional 1,280 in the past day. Then as for hardware losses, 12 tanks, 16 APVs, and a whopping 40 artillery. Then we'll head to the map and start out in Ukraine's northeast today, as Ukrainian forces made advances in the Vovchansk settlement yesterday, also compelling a group of 60 Russian fighters turned POWs to surrender, with the latest maps revealing newly recaptured areas highlighting Ukraine's strategic gains. If Ukrainian troops can maintain this momentum, they stand a chance of completely driving Russian forces out of Vovchansk. Imagine that. And the key seems to lie in Orostiva, which is a critical hub in the region and just west to Vovchansk, as severing control here could decisively weaken the Russian presence, disrupting their operations and morale. And so for this region, it continues to become more apparent from multiple sources on both sides that swarms of Ukrainian drones and artillery shells, for that matter, have decisively halted the Russian offensive in the northern sector, marking a shift in this region's conflict. Now, despite Kremlin assurances of continued progress here, most independent sources report a stalled Russian advance marked by heavy losses. And Ukrainian forces, led by a newly redeployed drone strike unit, have been exceptionally effective. And it's also been stated that Ukrainian drones are operating with near impunity, decimating Russian armor. And as we know, over the past few days, Ukraine has now won the backing from Western allies to pummel military sites just beyond the border, exacerbating the situation for Russia. It would seem they did not plan on that happening. And now, even German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has stated that allowing Ukraine to use German-supplied weapons within Russian territory will not lead to an escalation of the conflict. Scholz also emphasized that this move is necessary for Ukraine's self-defense, aligning with similar permissions granted by the United States and other Western nations. Although Germany, who is Ukraine's second largest military aid supplier, just behind the USA that is, has more so provided defensive equipment to Ukraine, at least as it pertains to this front. So apart from the Leopard tanks and the Marder IFVs they sent to Ukraine, specifically it's instead the PZH-2000s, those self-propelled howitzers from Germany, and the M270 Mars 2 launcher platforms, similar to the HIMARS platforms, that are used for firing US precision rockets. But otherwise, Germany certainly has not provided any Taurus missiles or even any non-self-propelled aviation-launched glide munitions either. Just the basics, as Olaf Scholz toes the diplomatic line a little bit more than other countries. Okay, quite a bit more. And that's why I find it a bit strange that Russian state media TV's top propagandist, Solovyev, as seen here, seems offended by German media showing the destruction of Vovchansk. And as such, he threatened German cities to look like this as well. So why pick on Germany? Well, I suppose sometimes bullies just like to pick on the weak, or at least those that they perceive to be the weakest. But in the end, Russia only ever seems to respond appropriately on the world stage to an opposition of strength. Then headed down on the map to the central east, as most of the fighting and the heaviest attacks are in the Donetsk region still, something which is still considered to be the main focus of Russian attacks. For instance, Russian forces are indeed still attempting to expand their intrusion just northwest of Osheretino, right there on the Avdiivka axis. And then further north from here, they are still trying to gain a proper foothold in the outside of the settlement, just directly east of Chasiv Yar. And do remember, Russia wanted to take Chasiv Yar by the Victory Parade Day, the May the 9th. But here we are, a month on. Then taking a look around more generally on the map, as soldiers from the 79th Separate Air Assault Brigade repelled another mechanized assault by Russia, with this particular occurrence happening in Novomikhailivka. Then, impressively in the east, a Ukrainian drone operator from the Balava unit showed the usage of an FPV drone with target lock-in, machine vision, and autonomous target guidance, working on an enemy tank. So in this instance, the drone operator locked onto the tank target and then gave the command, so then the drone independently did the job, striking successfully on the tank. Now, this might not seem like anything special, but the drone's automation didn't confuse itself with the two similar shaped and similar sized targets right next to the real target, the tank target, where it successfully made its hit onto. Now, we know that Ukraine has been working on this leveling up drone technology with the inclusion of AI, but it's one of the first in-field uses we've seen that I'm aware of to date, and there will be more such drones, and then even more. Likely all infused with AI learning at a geometric rate. The changing dynamics of the battlefield landscape. Then also in the east, this one's in the Donetsk Oblast, a Ukrainian FPV munition hits the roof of a cope cage-equipped Russian tank, penetrating the turret and causing the tank to suffer a catastrophic ammunition detonation. Then also, we saw the shattered remains of a Russian Mr. S howitzer after a successful Ukrainian Baba Yaga drone attack. Now, at first glance, it took me a few seconds to identify this vehicle because it's missing, I'd say, about 85% of its bulky turret from this engagement. Just incredible. Then moving along on the map, I wanted to head a bit further south because we saw some recent Russian doom posting again. Because the occupiers' plans for Odessa appear to be fading, as a Russian serviceman from the Zaporizhia region shared on a Russian Telegram channel how Ukrainian drones have made life extremely difficult for the occupying forces, as he described how any movement can be detected and subsequently targeted by artillery, thereby making their own Russian positions increasingly untenable. And while the Zaporizhia region is vast, making it challenging to pinpoint the exact area he describes, his account reveals the broader struggles faced by Russian forces due to the relentless activity of Ukrainian drones in the sky. Then headed across to some news for today. So, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov declared yesterday that French military instructors in Ukraine would be considered legitimate targets by Russia's armed forces. Although I'm fairly certain he also made this declaration about a week ago as well. Now, the Commander-in-Chief of Ukraine's armed forces, Alexander Syrsky, indicated on May 27th that France was planning to send instructors to train Ukrainian military personnel. However, Ukraine's defense ministry mentioned that discussions with France and other Western allies were still ongoing. And while French President Macron has not officially confirmed the deployment, he seems very eager to send French instructors to train Ukrainians in Ukraine. And this all comes amid the backdrop of Kyiv that has requested assistance from the US and NATO to train 150,000 soldiers closer to the front lines. But as for Lavrov's renewed statements, which seem to come from a position of paranoia, so maybe he just wants to make things extra clear to France, due to their status of being the only other nation on mainland Europe to possess nuclear weapons, and therefore being potentially the only nuclear nation that's just about to technically put troops in Ukraine. Then headed across to some economy news, because talks between Russia and China regarding a pivotal gas pipeline deal have reached an impasse, with Beijing reportedly leveraging Moscow's growing economic dependency stemming from Western sanctions and the ongoing war in Ukraine to negotiate favourable terms for the Power of Siberia 2 pipeline. So it seems China is demanding to pay prices close to Russia's heavily subsidized domestic rates and is only willing to commit to purchasing a small fraction of the pipeline's planned annual capacity of 50 billion cubic meters of gas. So this deal is crucial for Gazprom, which is Russia's state-owned gas giant, which for the first time in 20 plus years suffered billions in losses last year due to declining sales in Europe. So during his visit to China in May, Putin attempted to persuade Chinese President Xi Jinping to finalize the agreement. Notably, Gazprom's chief executive Alexei Miller, a key figure for any substantial negotiations with China, was absent from the delegation, further displaying the lack of progress in the talks. So it appears that Russia is offering about a 30% discount on natural gas to China, but China doesn't just want cheaper rates. China wants flat out extortionist rates. And they might actually get them, given Russia's now almost complete and utter economic dependence on China these days. Looks like there's still no honor among thieves. Then in some other news, a Russian-linked disinformation campaign is targeting the upcoming Paris Olympics, set to begin in late July. According to various sources, disinformation experts and US officials have identified this campaign, which aims to discredit and disrupt the games, which is perhaps no surprise given that Belarus and Russia are barred from officially participating. But their athletes can compete as neutral athletes, a decision criticized by both Ukraine and Russia, but for very different reasons, obviously. So this propaganda campaign includes a fake documentary with an AI-generated voice impersonating Tom Cruise, spreading misinformation about corruption and upcoming security threats at the Paris Olympics. The disinformation group also produces videos mimicking reputable media outlets to cultivate fear and deter attendance. These efforts are part of a broader strategy to undermine the Olympics and its host, France, including spreading false reports about ticket refunds and inciting anti-immigration sentiments. Researchers from Microsoft's Threat Analysis Center see this as a significant operation to vilify the IOC, or the International Olympic Committee, and create expectations of unrest and local hostilities during the 2024 Games. Despite this, the IOC president has expressed confidence in France's security measures, even in the face of these external troublemakers. Then headed across to another Russian military mobilization blunder segment, guys. So Russian military personnel from Stavropol who refused to serve due to severe health issues including cancer, tuberculosis, and mental illness were reportedly deceived and sent to the front lines in the Donetsk People's Republic under the guise of being taken in for questioning. Yes, take them to a war zone for questioning. That's not suspicious at all. Now, their relatives have reported this incident, voicing their concerns, demanding that their loved ones be returned to Russia for proper medical treatment. And so this troubling case is part of a growing trend in Russia where soldiers who refuse to serve, referred to as refuseniks, are being coerced into frontline duty despite their critical health conditions. So in terms of Russia scraping the bottom of the barrel for more men, first it was conscripts, then it was convicts, then it was any internationals they could entice. Now it's the critically sick and possibly mentally insane. The quality of Russian soldier is just going down, down, down. But also, there's nothing sustainable about this. And Russia can only scrape into the bottom of the barrel for so long before it's forced to make the incredibly unpopular choice of forcefully mobilizing more and more of the general public. Because, in reality, Putin will sadistically not spare a single life if it means saving his own behind. Then headed across to a quick funny to round it all off today, guys. So, the color police have come back to town, to the Russian Irkutsk region, that is, where a blue and yellow apartment building was ordered to be repainted as it looked like the Ukrainian flag. So these are the before and after shots. But I mean, this is all getting just a little bit ridiculous at this point, isn't it? Banned color combinations. It wasn't even horizontal like the Ukrainian flag is. I mean, why don't they just go and illegalize the sky and their own yellow grain fields as well? Farcical, absurd, laughable Russia. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks again for watching. Please continue to like and comment. And yeah, I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers.